welcome to Chaotic Service. Sorry, I took that a little too far. I'm Kat,
Tiff.
and we're on episode 2. Stoked to be back, and today's topic is, drumroll please,
Loyalty and friendships.
loyalty and friendships. We've been really stoked about this topic for personal reasons and other reasons.
All the reasons.
All the reasons, all the chaotic reasons.
Yeah. And this will be a fun episode because Kat and I are very caffeinated.
Yeah. I don't drink coffee, so I am feeling it everywhere in my body and my veins and my soul. But here we are.
The bones are crunching in the best way, kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
It'll be great.
The caffeine is caffeining.
Extremely.
Yeah. But all right, let's get to it.
So, Kat.
Tiff.
Kitty cat.
Meow.
Tiff cat, Tiff cat, Tiff cat.
All right, we're back.
Okay. So, Kat. Okay, Kat. What does loyalty look like to you? Diagnose the definition of loyalty and friendships for me, please.
So for me, loyalty and friendships looks like understanding. It looks like grace. It looks like conversations before accusations. It looks like something that can somewhat evolve over time, depending on how the friendship strengthens and your relationship to each other as it sort of evolves. Those are like the main things I think of when I think of loyalty. And I also think it looks like it's not that you're against someone else, but that you're for me. The same way that I would be for you, but not against someone else.
Showing up, showing out
Mm-hmm.
with love and compassion and strong, clear, concise communication.
Rooted in love, of course.
100%. I think that when you're capable of tending to each other's hearts, minds, souls, with, again, compassion and grace, loyalty is a very broad term when it comes down to how it can actually be applied to friendships. Obviously, there's different boundaries, I think, with everybody and what it really looks like and how it unfolds, but this will be our experience.
Yeah, and I think loyalty is obviously a really big word, and it means different things to different people. It can be subjective and objective at the same time. So I think while we're going through this conversation, we want our listeners to keep that in mind, that this is sort of our experience of what we see as loyalty, and hopeful that we'll also get feedback on what others, definitions are of that, because we do realize that it really does differ based on how people perceive it. But again, this is our experience and how we look at loyalty.
Yeah, 100%. And it is a very hefty construct within healthy friendships. And again, it really dwindles back down to communicating boundaries of how that looks, how you want it to look. And I think even how you express your loyalty to friends can look differently from how they may interpret it. And so even communicating in that fashion too.
Right. And understanding in some instances that someone else's definition, because it is different than yours, that's maybe why they're showing up differently. And that's where like those boundaries and talking about it and communicating and leaving room for that before sort of like cutting something off, is important. It's easy to be like, well, I thought that person was loyal to me, and in their mind they could think that they were being loyal, right? And I think at that point, after that type of conversation, it's up to you to decide whether or not you align with their definition of loyalty. But I think it's easy to assume sometimes that someone isn't being loyal just based on perhaps like their actions or what you would have done in a situation, when really they could have felt like they were being loyal to you.
Right, exactly. So even just, communicating what feels good to all parties involved.
Right.
And not moving within baseless assumptions.
Yeah, which is like obviously the reason why we want to focus more on friendships than in romantic relationships, is because those do look completely different. And so in this conversation specifically, we are talking about friendships, and yes, some do parallel to romantic relationships, but really the focus is on friendships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's hear of some of your experiences of what that healthy loyalty and friendships have looked like.
I think for me, and this is not to exclude anybody in my life that I love who I do feel loyalty to and from, but I would say like the people that come to mind, and I want to bring these people up because I've just been, obviously both of us been going through a lot since 2024 where I've just seen loyalty show up in the most like real and validating way. I would say you and Ashley and my friend Lily have really shown me that loyalty does look a certain way to me, and I do have an expectation of that. And what that does look like is, again, that you're for me and not against anybody else. It's like when I'm sharing pain that I'm going through, it's not about seeing both sides. It's not about playing Switzerland. And not that you can't shed light on another side that someone else may have. It's that you're like really showing up for me. And I always want to have a perspective of like, okay, what is the other person going through? And I love hearing that from you and Ashley and Lily. And I feel like you guys consistently have given me that. But you are really here, like, and have been for me. And like one of the hardest things I've gone through in my life in a way that has validated like what I deserve from friendships, close friendships in my life. And that just feels like I can share in the most raw way how I'm feeling, what I'm going through, and feel safety in that. And feel safety in that what I'm saying is going to stay with you, safety in that you're seeing me for who I am, safety in that you know where my heart is placed, but also safety in your positioning on supporting me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do feel like, and this is coming from someone who has been the extreme version of loyal and then kind of went to this like Switzerland side.
Can you dissect that concept?
Yeah, so ironically, Switzerland is one of my favorite countries that I visited. However, when I say that, I think people often want to just be Switzerland and like, and I don't mean for things that are he said, she said. I mean a dispute between two people that is challenging morals and ethics. And when you decide to be in the middle of that, where you're like, well, I'm going to be in the middle. I love both of you guys. I think it's a cop out. I think that again, it's not about being against the other person. It's about being for someone and then having integrity in your own morals. And what does that look like in real practice? Because if I'm
Mm-hmm.
telling you that this person did this to me and they really hurt me, and you come to me just because you may know that person or have a relationship with them with, well, like, we love both of you. And it's like, but no. And it's not about this immature picking of sides. It's about like, you are either for me or you're not for me. Because
Mm-hmm.
no, there's no longer safety if you're telling me that you're somewhere in the middle on something that is like deeply, deeply hurt me. And that kind of is going to change the direction our friendship goes because now I no longer feel that safety.
Yeah, the raw, vulnerable honesty and transparency that you can communicate your feelings, thoughts, opinions on things. And also sometimes it could feel like a liability, and like in
Yes.
conversations you may be walking on eggshells because if they're in the middle, you also don't want to, there's that. I know personally for me, when I've had friends try to stay neutral in those territories, then now it's hard for me to know how I can really conversationally discuss my feelings on things without making them feel like they're in an awkward place too. So then it kind of just, it, like you said, it changes the dynamic of closeness. And I mean, reiterating what you're discussing, very, very deeply damaging behaviors that people have inflicted upon you.
I think that's what it is. Deeply damaging behaviors that have been what was it?
Inflicted.
Inflicted, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The
Caffeine. There's
caffeine.
caffeine
um that have been inflicted upon you. Because if someone is telling you those things and you're still in the middle of it, and I think you can agree, like, we're okay if you decide you want to choose the latter side.
Yeah,
Like, just
100%.
be honest about that.
Right.
But if you and also I want to point out we're all like perfectly imperfect.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because like we all have our issues. So just because someone does something not so great to you doesn't mean they're a bad person.
Right.
But I'm telling you, this person did X to me. That
Mm-hmm.
was a terrible thing.
Yeah.
So I'm also telling you that I need your support, your full support. So to then be sort of this like half and half, that just doesn't, that's not sustainable. And also doesn't make the other person feel completely, and I'm going to keep saying this word, safe.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, to even dive deeper on, as being the third party, witnessing, observing, and supporting, um, also once I witnessed someone do something really harmful to one of my best friends, I mean, this is something that I've always struggled with because I've always been loyal to a fault, literally to
Same,
a fault.
same.
And
That's what I
so
mean
it
by
has always
extreme.
been,
Yeah.
once I witness someone do something super wrong to someone that I really care about, I, as the third party, no longer feel safe because you may not have directly done it to me, but now I know what you're capable
Oh,
of.
I love that about
And
you.
well, I mean, it's just like protecting the peace around what I put my heart into also involves that. And it's like my loyalty to you means I am not going to either put myself in the complicated place of feeling like the artificial, this is something I will not, absolutely will not do, is if I feel like I don't have the capacity of closeness and vulnerability with someone because they've tarnished it in my mind because I've already witnessed something indirectly done to me, then I don't, I don't even have it in me to authentically express any kind of safety with them. But also just like loyalty to you, I don't want to ever cause, just put you in a position where it is welcomed within our space that we share. I mean, it's just like, to me, being loyal to you means that I'm going to protect you through and through. I'm going
Right,
to show up for you.
right,
I'm not going to put that on you.
right. And I think where people have a hard time is because they think like, I don't want to pick sides, and relate that to being a very like immature mindset, but you're not really picking a side. And people may want to challenge that. It's that you're just positioning yourself to do exactly what you just said, is to support the other person through and through. And it's okay if you value your friendship with one person over that other person.
Right.
um we've kind of were talking about that last episode. It's like when people show you who they are, you should believe them. And that's what you're saying from like an
Exactly.
outsider's perspective of like,
Exactly.
when I see this person do this to somebody
It could have
else,
been done to me.
yes, that's how it's making me feel, and I don't want to find out if it can be done to
Right.
me.
Because at the end of the day, it does ultimately display their lack of self awareness within their behaviors as well.
Right.
And again, if somebody can show that they'll do that in a different capacity, what would make me feel differently that they wouldn't do that to me? But back to some good excellent or good examples of healthy loyalty. I have also been in situations where something may have been indirectly done or misconstrued or something of that sort. And what always felt like really sweet loyalty to me is my friends also genuinely showing curiosity with knowing my character, having that in mind, and having an open line of communication on what those different avenues looked like, truly, from my perspective, as they're indirectly experiencing something. I've had friends that have really showed up for me just by asking in curiosity of what situations looked like for me and not just going with any kind of assumption.
Yes, I think it's the assumption part that can break down um loyalty, right? Because it's like, if I'm going through something, going through a really hard time, and you sort of refocus it on you, not realizing that you may be affected because of my behavior. But if you make it about you, where it's like, now I'm hurting you, it's not that I'm hurting you, it's that I'm going through something, and not assuming that my heart is still with you, is interesting, because then
Right,
you're questioning my character. Because it's like, my behaviors, though, may be impacting you on some level, it's not necessarily about you. It's that I'm going through something really, really hard, and I
right.
just need you to meet me where I am.
Yeah,
And
it's a misalignment of where you may be in life, lifestyle, multiple different things, but where you can actually show up. That's another great example for me of how loyalty has been shown to me. I've got a really great friend, Jaya, and she and I have had um, a very long distance style, low maintenance even friendship where we have always shown up for each other and rode for each other. But it's been really beautiful because, I am a person to isolate when I'm going through things.
Same.
It's very important. It's very invaluable for me to really have the time to piece together, process my inner workings, and really dissect what everything is feeling like for me. Also, just you and I have very busy lives. It's like we are balancing a million jobs and parenthood
Yeah.
by ourselves, and so it's like the friends that really show up for me without taking it personally, that I may not be able to physically show up for them as often, as frequently as I would like to, just because that's where I'm at in my lifestyle. And they still, again, the word compassion, they still show me compassion and know that I am showing up for them in whatever capacity I'm capable of doing at the point in my life that I'm at. And vice versa. I mean, those friendships where it isn't about taking it personally and making it about this misconstrued internalized narrative of, oh, they're not being a good friend to me. Sometimes it's just that all I can do is to nurture our friendship. I may not be able to drive 3 hours away to come see you frequently, but what I can do is shoot you a text every now and then and remind you that I'm here for you, that I love you, and ask for updates. So I mean, it's like different lifestyles may differ completely, but what matters is that that's not taken personally, but taken compassionately.
Right. And there should be that trust there if there's loyalty, that just because there may be some distance, it's not a reflection of how much they love me.
Yeah.
And I think that even goes down to big life updates. Like when I mentioned Ashley, it's like there was a big thing that happened in my life that I went a long time not telling her, not because I didn't want to. I just wasn't in a space to really want to like have to go through telling her everything that was going on. And she was coming to visit me and I wanted to wait till I saw her in person. And I was so nervous that she was going to be upset with me because I had been going so long and not telling her. And it was completely opposite. She was like, I'm just so glad that you had Tiff. I wish I would have known so I could support you, but I'm just happy that you had someone. I'm happy that you're telling me and I support you. She didn't take that personally, but in my mind, that was a concern. But
Mm-hmm.
it's like that too. It's like, how can you still show up for people and practice that loyalty when things aren't exactly how you would have done them
Right.
or how
Yeah.
you would handle things? We all handle things differently.
Yeah.
That to me is loyalty. Is like, I still ride for you even though, and she never said she would have done it differently, but like had she, it's like that's still what she's telling me through her reaction and her expression to me and her support.
Right. Exactly. And it was so beautiful to me to also witness that. That's how I knew that she is an absolute gem of a person.
We love
Is
you, Ashley.
that's how she ended up showing out for you, and it was so beautiful for me to witness because I have also experienced the other end of people getting jealous of the closeness and like making this hierarchy of friendship.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas because I was cued into everything, she could have taken it a completely different direction, but instead she showed up with empathy and compassion and curiosity and love. And like, what a solid friend, because it was such a dense thing to just say over the phone. It's
Right.
an in-person conversation that you wanted to have. And so I mean, it was just, she is truly an epitome of a loyal friend that
Right.
just wants the betterment of for your life, and
Yeah.
how she can really plug into that.
And Gyre reminds me of the same thing. It's like this is where Tiff is at. This is where I could fit into it right now, and that might change over time. You might have more time in the future where you can give, her more attention,
Right.
right? You can do this, you can do that, and in those phases of our lives, just understanding that we're always going through these different eras,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
And that's going to change a relationship a little bit. It's going to change what it looks like, but knowing that at the end of the day, you love each other, you support each other, and you can again be compassionate. Like you pointed that out a couple times. Like that's what it comes down to. Like that's also how you show
Yeah,
loyalty.
the adaptability of how you can nurture friendships change. Something I've always really enjoyed about long distance friendships, because I have sisters everywhere
Right.
in so many different states, and something I've really held a lot of gratitude with is how the dynamic shifts. Like obviously, even I mean, you and I are local to each other and easily accessible, but it especially works so greatly for us because our lives are so aligned with our lifestyles, being that we are working moms
Yeah. Yeah.
and we work like so much and we are
Yeah.
parenting so much and our kids get along, and it's so cohesive. But then there's also my friends that, traveling and seeing my friends is not so easily accessible for me in my current lifestyle. But getting to write my girls love letters, sending them a little care package, surprisingly. It's just like these little things that you get to nurture friendships differently and show up for them. I may not be able to sit on the phone for an hour with you every other week anymore,
Mm-hmm.
but I will take 10 minutes to write you a love letter, stamp, send it off in the mail.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like like the loyalty and friendships is ever changing in the way that you can shift and adapt to how you're capable of showing up for people. But at the end of the day, it really is just about having that root of love and understanding, surrendering to the trust that the connection is secure. And it's like those friends that you can go without seeing for like 2 years and you see, and it's like you didn't skip a beat.
Right, literally.
Yeah.
You didn't. And I love those
And it's the
friendships.
loyalty to the trust of what the connection is actually at at the root of it all.
And also, if a person comes to you and they're like, I feel neglected, on the other side of it, it's like leaving space to let someone have that experience and like
Right.
trying to find a happy medium to resolve that works for both of you and not getting defensive if that happens. I think loyalty and safety and friendships as well is born from like being able to be rawly honest.
Right.
And you may not be able to still meet them where they want you to be, but at least you're now creating this environment that's like, thank you for telling me that you felt like I was neglecting you. This is what's
Yes.
going on in my life. This is what I can offer you right now, but just know that I love you and like I do want to see you more and I do think about you because I think we both I have friends that I talk to once every 3 months, but they come up in my mind more than
Right.
that.
It's literally like
It's
at least every day, every other day, I think
yeah,
about you.
right. Like you're on my mind, and like I want that to mean something because when you tell me that I was on your mind, it means something to me too. And I understand that you have stuff going on in your life that I don't know about.
Right.
I'm here ready to support it whenever you do want to share it with me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like that understanding goes both ways of
A
like,
hundred
we
percent.
are adults, life be lifing,
Mm-hmm.
different things are going on, but it's like, and it's again going to look different,
Yeah.
but it's I'm thinking of you still.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, again, if that's just a hey, I love you text, there's friends that I'll be like randomly, hey, I hope you have a good day,
Right.
and that's it. And they may even respond to me with a whole paragraph. And I may not respond right away, but I just wanted to at least get that text out that I love you. And my lack of
Exactly.
response isn't always because I don't care about everything you just told me. It's because I'm so inundated and I can't. And I
Right.
want you to understand that it's not that I don't care, but I just wanted to give you that little nudge of like, I'm thinking of you.
Right.
I
Exactly.
want to talk. Like, I just can't right now,
Mm-hmm.
but I am loyal to you. I am supportive of you. I am still a safe space for you, and I
Yeah.
will round back.
100%. And I mean, to your point, again, touching on the communications of boundaries, it is absolutely valid. Their experience of feeling neglected,
Mm-hmm.
unintentionally placed by us, that's still valid. And the
Yep.
beauty of them communicating that, hey, I'm feeling neglected in our friendship, I feel like it's dwindling away. I'm glad that you communicated this. What can we do to make this reach a happy medium? Because sometimes it really is just like, okay, I may not have a free weekend for like 4 more weeks, but when I do have that free weekend, I'm penciling in your name, and that's a non-negotiable for both of us. If that's what it takes for us to nourish this friendship, this connection, then that's what we can do. But oftentimes, I know every day just blares into the next. And so, like, there needs to be communication where, I mean, knowing where your friends are at is so important, but so easy to be swept under the rug without the clear communication. Because oftentimes I think there also is like um, those unhealthier patterns of communication or behavior or reactions, responses, because there's a deeper root cause of what they may be feeling. Like if there's a saltiness they're feeling, we may be not even aware of it
Right.
because it's not communicated, and then it starts sabotaging in other ways where now they're feeling like me doing this other thing and they weren't invited.
Right.
They're feeling some kind of way, but maybe there were all these other variables that were unforeseen, like I went out with Kat that weekend because she was working an event and I was helping her work it. I couldn't invite somebody with me.
Right.
You know what I
No,
mean?
nothing is
It's
not,
like,
everything is not what it seems.
no, no. So it really comes down to like loyalty and communication and like valuing a friendship enough to actually concretely talk about the constructs of what it requires.
That, and how do we not act out when we're feeling neglected? Because I think also what can happen is when someone feels neglected and becomes resentful and doesn't communicate it, sometimes their behavior can be so detrimental to that friendship because now they're being passive aggressive, or now they're doing things because they purposely want the person to see whatever on social media to like get back at them. Mindsets like
Mm-hmm.
that, they become really, really toxic, can end up ruining a friendship because you do have this narrative that's not real simply because you didn't communicate how you were feeling.
Exactly.
And I think that for both sides, right? Like, and that's where like the ego gets involved because it's me focused, how am I being affected, instead of like, this is how I'm being affected. However, I love them. Something could be going on with them. Let me leave space for a conversation to gain clarity before
Mm-hmm.
I go down this rabbit hole of just being unwell and
Mm-hmm.
and hate growing and all of those things.
Right. And when those conversations do happen, I think it's extremely important to be able to speak your side of things, also be met with validity while hearing the other side of things and meeting them with validity, because both realities are inevitably valid. What you're feeling, what they're feeling, they are real, true experiences. But I think at the end of the day, what's most important is seeing both sides of things, having the curiosity of both sides, and then coming together and being a team
Mm-hmm.
about it. It's like, okay, I now hear that this made you feel this kind of way. I'm sorry that I had that effect on you. This is how it felt like for me. And now let's see, with all of the corners of the big picture, where can we actually meet in sanctuary? The safety of our friendship. Like where can we actually meet in the middle here? Because if I made you feel this way, okay, I can work on this. But I also felt this way. And I think accountability again comes up where with the validity of both experiences, there is accountability that's shared because it is a shared dynamic.
Yeah, and you're not trying to win, you're trying to get to a place of understanding.
Exactly.
It's like not
Mm-hmm.
it's not who's right and who's wrong. It's like we're trying to get to an even playing field so that we can move forward
Right.
and we can get back to being good,
Yeah.
get back to being sustainable.
Yeah. I am curious how, let's have a conversation on how we can move through moments where loyalty is breached. I know we both have experienced that
For me, I
recently.
think that sometimes where like the isolation comes in because there
Yeah.
needs to be so much reflection on the different aspects that led to that, right? Like how I'm feeling, the position that person was in, my actions, their actions. Um, but it still goes back to something we keep saying. I said in the first episode, when someone shows you who they are, like
Right.
you need to believe them. But at the same time, it's we're not perfect. We're not perfect
Yeah.
beings. So finding that sort of medium of like, is this a reflection of a behavior that will likely be repeated? Have I seen this behavior with them with other people? Or is this something that I can talk to them about and get to a place where it's like they're taking accountability and seeing me?
Yes.
And like that's where it's really hard when loyalty is breached. And I think where we share this in that like it's very hard because we love so deeply
Mm-hmm.
that when that loyalty is put into question or breached in some situations, I know in my heart, and I know you too, it's just not going to come back.
Right.
And in those, in that, and you've taught me this, and validated me in this, you do have to let people go.
Yeah.
And it's hard because it doesn't mean you don't value all the good times that you had with them. It doesn't mean you're not going to be sad about that loss. But is this a pattern?
Yeah.
Have I now seen this in smaller ways so that has led to this huge breach? Am I willing to find out again?
Right. Yeah. I Yeah, I am very quick. Always have been this way. Once I have felt disrespected to a point of no return, I do send off with love.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I understand this is something that you may be going through, speaking to the person done this. But this is not something that I'm willing to tolerate with somebody I am close to vulnerably, authentically. Um, I would really like you to share with our listeners
You
something
always
that
put
you
me on the
recently,
spot.
yes, because you got such a beautiful brain, and I want they need to hear it. But you shared with me recently the concept of friends being similar to a tree.
Yeah, so I actually got this concept from another good friend of mine. Is so the roots are the people that are going to be in your life forever, holding you down through all seasons. Then you have the branches, and those are people that may be around for many seasons, but the wind blows a little too hard, branch is gone. And then you have the leaves that are those people that just kind of come and go, acquaintances, might have vibed on some level, could have felt deep, but aren't your roots,
Mm-hmm.
not the roots of the trees. Um, and I do think about that and compare it to different relationships in my life and where people stand. Are they a root? Are they a branch? Or are they a leaf?
Right.
And that does sometimes dictate how I handle conflict resolution with them, because it's not that I don't value this short term connection I may have with someone that's a leaf, if you will. It's that, to your point earlier about us just being so inundated, being moms and working all these jobs, you know, is there value to keeping this person in my life and me being in their life? And is it equal value? And so, someone who's a root, I may have a little bit more understanding and patience for than someone that's a leaf or a branch. And I'm not saying someone that's a leaf or a branch can never turn into someone that's a root. But where does this person stand in my life, and how much energy can I put into trying to rescue this relationship,
Mm, yeah.
rescue what we've created?
I mean, that right there is so beautiful, even considering, when you have a plant and there are leaves that are dying, and you, in order to keep that plant thriving, you have to prune it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as hard as it is sometimes, because you don't want to let go of the length, maybe if it's like a trailing pothos, but but realistically, it's you have to prune a plant to let it have the longevity at its core. And I mean, keep watering it when it is thriving, but when it's dying, paying attention to it too.
I love it. Snaps you, Tiffy. But also, I think you have to be aware that someone that you thought was a root
Yeah,
could be a branch,
right.
could have been a leaf, and that's heartbreaking too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And you might learn that someone's a root through something that happens that like they you thought they were a leaf, but they're
Mm-hmm.
actually a root
Right.
because they've proven to you or you went through something where you're like, oh wait, this person's a root.
Right.
So it doesn't mean that they're not interchangeable over time. But I think when you look at friendships using this sort of tree analogy, it can really help you sort of navigate through what's worth your energy and time and space and what you should release with love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mm, Releasing friendships can be tricky, and I've definitely let go of people that I had once strongly believed were roots, and then there was a breach of loyalty that I couldn't overlook. And even just thinking about how maybe somebody was a root for a point of your life, and then maybe they turned into a branch and come back to being a root. Who knows? But I think like the loyalty and friendships really comes full circle in life experience and how they are even capable given certain situations. Yeah.
For those that are only listening, not watching, tips.
I have a dog that
Yeah.
has no personal
No.
space perspective at all. She's very smothering. She loves to be smothered. It's my
Yes.
fault. I blame myself.
She's loyal though.
Oh, she is
But
so
she's 50
loyal.
pounds and thinks she's 10.
Yeah,
But we
yeah.
but we
And
love you.
she's got this thing where she stiff arms. She'll lean on you
Oh yeah.
and then she'll stiff arm
Yeah.
where you cannot push her off you. But she just wants to be all up in your space so she can give you love.
I'm gonna do a quick side quest. We're
Okay.
gonna reverse a little bit. I'm gonna
Let's
ask you
hear
a
it.
question.
Oh
So
goodness. I'm being put on the
yeah,
spotlight. Okay.
the tables have turned. Going back to the Switzerland
Oh.
theme, I see that come up a lot with people who are friends with couples.
Hmm.
So when an individual is friends with those two people that are in a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and again, I'm not talking about he said, she said, I'm talking about real heartbreaking conflict.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on navigating that? What you've seen, what you like, what you don't like? I know I have thoughts on this,
Hmm.
but that's a tricky place because oftentimes that person that is friends and has connections with both those people, of course, inevitably feels torn.
Mm-hmm.
But then I go back to the, you know, it's not that you're against the other person, it's that you're for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I mean that generally, not really literally. Um, and so I'm curious of Tiff's thoughts on
Hmm.
this.
Well, the first word that comes to mind is transparency. I think that it's really, really important to when you are in that kind of predicament. So obviously, I've already shared that I had a very long term relationship end this past year. And obviously, when you have such a lengthy relationship that was so deeply enmeshed, there is a lot of mutual friends within that. And I will say, with my experience, I have never wanted to inflict an awkward, weird animosity within those friendships. Even like our mutual friends when we were together, I wouldn't go to our friends and vent about our problems because I didn't want to put them in a position. But I do, however, know, acknowledge, and appreciate that when that would happen from the other end, they would ride for me. They would go to the bat for me in the sense that they would have honesty with themselves and transparency within both relationships to understand the robustness, the complexity of it, and be like, okay, well, I'm not just going to go along with whatever this person says that sounds harmful because I'm not going to question the character of my other friend. I'm going to, even though I don't even know all ends of it all, I'm going to be loyal and understanding that my friend is a good person and I am not witnessing any of this abrasive talk. And so I think the transparency of saying, okay, I'm not going to be put in this. I see what's really happening. And that's not okay. Period. That's not okay. And I will really, really hold a lot of gratitude because I've had multiple friends. One comes to mind really strongly that has really stood strong in knowing that my character is a good one, and they would ride for me in those really complicated points of time without even me knowing or being a part of it. They would transparently be honest of their point of perspective. Also, I think that transparency within, like, if you are involved, if you're one of my really close friends and there's some kind of involvement with the other person, transparency. Hey, I just want to let you know that I'm doing this thing because I'm loyal to you and I don't want you to ever feel weird. I just want to let you know that I'm doing this. And it goes back down to, I mean, it's such a core fundamental part of friendship is communication, because again, it's so easy to misconstrue situations when you don't have clear, concise communication. And so when it comes to couples, whether they're together or not, and there's mutual friends, and that's Switzerland, I think it's really, really important that that individual is super clear on where they stand and where their loyalty flows. And even if they are trying to stay in the middle of things, knowing that they will not be a liability to either end of it, that they're going to stand strong in their own honest belief and still remain curious and ride for that person. Like, I mean, I've had people see what was done and immediately be like, that's so not okay, that I'm not going to allow that. I'm
Right.
not going to allow me to be involved in that. Because again, it goes back down to, if they could do that, then it could be done to me.
Well, and it also enables hurtful behavior from the person doing the thing to you. So if you're telling me, no matter who you're with, if I'm a mutual friend with them, this person did this thing, and I'm like, well, I still love you both.
Right. See, now, and I mean, given the context that I'm aware of,
Yeah.
I won't, that's not my duty to disclose. But given all the context available, when there is approval, I mean, it's like even starting a legal case, right? If there's like a legal case and there is evidence that this person did this, that, and the third, well, by golly, why would I interject myself, whimsy minded, thinking, oh, I still love that person, even though they have been proved to be a scumbag. I was gonna say the word a scumbag. Like, my God, I wouldn't. So, but I mean, so I think that's the tricky part of it all, though.
Trickety.
The trickety. Listen, I am caffeinated, okay?
Yeah.
I think that's the tricky part of it all, is like sometimes people don't know all of the context in totality. And so, but when they are given the context and can use their observational skills, and they still want to just like pussyfoot around the truth of it all because they want to remain neutral,
And be quote unquote unproblematic.
it can be problematic just because you are seeing, I mean, it's like, let's not cause a trigger warning here, Tiff, but when you see something really, really, really badly done to a friend and you know that that has happened, I I wouldn't enable that activity
Right.
at all.
Yeah. The chaos, the screaming
No.
plague. No, it's okay. It's okay. They saw what it's about. It's all
Did
good.
they?
Yeah.
Did they?
Well, if they're listening, it doesn't matter
It's fine. Like,
anyways.
check it out. Check it out. Okay, well, if you're listening and you don't know what I'm doing right now, I figured out how to put.
To project our
Oh
logo
my
onto our screen.
gosh.
But let's just let that be. This is where we're gonna accept what's here.
Yes.
But I am trending with you. I think it can be really detrimental to the person that's been so hurt and negatively impacted when someone stays in such a neutral place about shitty behavior when you do have facts and you have enough information to come to an appropriate conclusion. And that can look like you addressing that other person and being like, this is what I know. I don't think it's okay. I do want to remain your friend. I don't want to have to like pick a side. But then it gets down to like the whole pick a side thing. It's not about that. It's also about having integrity with your own morals and what you stand up for.
Yeah.
If you are in line with really shitty behavior, and to be honest, I don't really want to be your friend anyways.
Yeah. And
like
I
if
think
you're
that
enabling
word you just used, addressing it,
yeah,
is so important,
right.
because if, like, hearsay is hearsay, but
Mm-hmm.
addressing something, I mean, again, it goes back down to
But if
communication.
it's also if
But
it's that big of a deal where like you can't be there, if you're like I feel so torn. If you don't feel so torn, then you can be for whichever side you most resonate with and whichever friendship you value more.
right.
But like that is where the communication comes in. If you are feeling so torn, where it's like just doing nothing and staying in that middle ground when someone is being vulnerable and expressing to you how much they've been hurt by something, to continue to be like, and that's whether those two people are in a relationship or those two people are just in a friendship and you're friends with both sides, can be so damaging to the person that is the victim, if you will, in this case, of
Yeah.
someone else's actions. Very, very damaging. And that's what disintegrates that safety. And then that's what impacts the future of like a friendship and the loyalty.
And rewind. Um, always, always want to add in, and I'm not speaking to the situation that we are also
Well, just
navigating
generally, yeah,
cautiously in this
yeah.
conversation, but generally also to play devil's advocate. There is this thing within human dynamics that sometimes things happen between two people that may only remain within those two people. And I mean, it's like who your friend is within a relationship, romantic relationship, may not be who they are as a family member or a friend. I think the key to this is also just evaluating the pattern that you may see and that you can actually actively address within somebody. So it's like I may see this person, I know somebody that was a really good friend to me that I decided to leave with love the past year. And I mean, I did that because not only was it a direct pattern that was affecting me, but I was witnessing it as a pattern. So it wasn't just a dynamic that he felt safe and he could just do this, that, and that to me, but that was destructive. But it's also a destructive pattern that he is practicing in his life.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, it really goes back down to sometimes there is a toxic dynamic that doesn't define an individual, but sometimes addressing that will also lead you to being an eye opener, it being the catalyst of, oh, actually, I'm seeing this as a pattern in many other forms
It's
as
that. It's a
well.
pattern. Is it a one-time thing or is it a pattern? And then you make the decision on what you want to do with that pattern that you're seeing.
Yeah, also just having loyalty to yourself
Yep.
and transmitting what love and loyalty you're willing to give to people. And I mean, it's again that tolerance of, I know I love my people so strongly, so deeply, I will ride for my people.
Amen,
We ride at
sister.
dawn.
We ride
We
at
ride.
dawn.
We've been rode, you know. Jesus. But
We are
but you
moms.
know, yeah, you know, it goes like that. But I mean, realistically though, I cannot keep riding for you if you are showing me that you don't even have the awareness to ride for me.
Yep.
And I mean, again, people can show up differently at different times of their life. But, and so it's not even just like, it's what people require differently. You know,
And it goes back to the beginning. It's just like everyone's definition of loyalty is different.
yeah. So let's discuss some things we can do to truly curate a strong, healthy sense of loyalty within the friendships that we have in our lives.
I mean, I think that you,
Other than communication, of
other than,
course.
yeah, I was going to say,
Like, that might be redundant at this
yeah, I
point.
think
Never actually,
communication,
but yeah.
obviously communication, transparency, honesty, raw honesty,
Mm-hmm.
not walking on eggshells about how you feel.
Yeah. Being able to actually tell your feelings
Yeah,
to the people that you love, your friends.
being okay with being uncomfortable to be able to do that. Um, but
Being honest about
also
that.
taking the time you need to assess how you're feeling, because short term emotions can have long term consequences. So even though you might be feeling really, really negative because you saw something or you felt something, taking a minute to like figure out where those emotions are rooted in, 'cause sometimes they're not even rooted in what's going on, it's a projection. So that when like you are addressing it, you can come in a way that is rooted in love, like we continue to say, so that you can have a productive conversation with your friend, versus again just like accusing or thinking of something just from your own perspective, being open-minded to where they are and actually listening to that. And even if that means having a conversation, taking time and then coming back when you can assess
Yes.
it, like the
Yes.
patience, like the beauty and the patience of
Yes.
trying to keep a relationship existing.
Yeah.
And
The
like, yeah,
non-reactivity.
yes, because we're often very, very reactive when we're feeling highly emotional
When
about
they're
something, because
mm-hmm.
when you really love someone and you feel like they've hurt you or they have hurt you, it's easy again to be so reactive and so chaotic that the way that you're even expressing how you're feeling isn't even coming out in a way that can be understood. So it's like, how do you get to a place where you can communicate how you're feeling, but also your walls are down to leave space for what that person is feeling, what that person
Yes.
is going through.
Yeah.
Because you have to be able to see all sides to move forward in a way that is sustainable. And then understanding that you may go through many seasons where you have to do the same thing over and over with this
Mm-hmm.
person.
Right.
And then you can say, this person is a root, it's worth this, or this
Mm-hmm.
person is a branch, it doesn't work for me anymore, or this person is a leaf, and it's okay that they were here and I value my time with them and I love the good times that we had. And even if you ended on a bad note, you can say, well, there's still always something positive that came out of any type of friendship, and holding that in your heart and releasing anything that doesn't serve you.
Yes. Yes. I think, to reiterate your point of when we have elevated emotions, taking some time to process our feelings. And I also know once those conversations do happen, remaining in a place where receiving what they have to say is not being internalized as accusatory, but actually hearing what they feel, receiving that, and validating their experience will also further feel like loyalty, because you're meeting them again with love and compassion and validation, but then also speaking softly within your experience too. So, non reactivity in elevated times,
Mm-hmm.
taking a moment to process, equally discussing your shared realities, even though they might not be actually shared,
Right.
but actually, just because I'm saying this is how I felt doesn't mean that I'm accusing you if that's what you intended to do. But
Right.
and there's a line that you told me that was so impactful. It doesn't matter how deep the depth of something, a situation is, but how strong the impact was. Like,
Yes.
it may not be that deep, but my feelings on it were really impacted, and
And that's
that feels
important.
deep.
And that feels deep, and it should matter to both sides. And you
Right.
might later on be like, oh my gosh, I freaked out about that. But it's like, no, in that moment you felt strongly about it, and that should be validated. You should hold space for that, and it matters.
Right.
And it goes both ways
Yeah.
with that.
And keeping it afloat.
Yeah.
You're such
And
a loyal friend.
you're such a loyal friend.
Oh,
No,
is it like a Taurus thing or something?
it
I don't
must be a
know. It must be
Taurus
a Taurus
thing.
thing.
Taurus gang, Taurus gang.
Sagman gang. If
Yes,
you know,
Sag
you
Moon.
know.
If you know,
If
you
you know, you know.
know.
It's crazy. We're Taurus suns and Sag moons.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah,
besties.
and besties.
and
It all makes
and moms.
sense. And
And
moms
have awesome
and
kids.
entrepreneurs and multitaskers
And
and
chaotic.
chaotic and caffeinated.
Donated. We could talk
So
about loyalty and friendships probably for 2 hours, but we're
yeah,
gonna wrap it up for you all. This is just an important topic for us because I think we've learned a lot from each other. I know that you have shown me validation in how I look at loyalty and knowing what I deserve in loyalty because of what I bring to the table with loyalty. So I'll always be deeply appreciative of that. You've really helped me
And
stay grounded
likewise.
in that. And I hope our listeners have friends that do the same for them because we all deserve to have that. And also, like, we may want someone to be that and they're just not there. And that's okay too. But do not lower your
Standards.
your standards. Yeah, exactly. Don't lower your standards just to keep somebody in your life.
Yeah.
Because you should be whole, you should be safe, and you should feel seen.
Yeah. But also, there is a compartmentalization to it all where even if they're not capable of showing you the level, that standard of loyalty and closeness, vulnerability, that may just mean that they're a leaf. And
Right.
that's okay. You don't have to completely disconnect from them in life.
Yeah, they'll
But
blow
that
away
just
when they're
means,
ready.
yeah, I mean, it just means that, again, it's like I'm not going to come from a place of evil, you
Yeah.
know,
And it doesn't also
malice.
mean, I want to stress this, like, even if someone's a leaf, that does not mean they're disposable.
A
And
hundred
it's not
percent.
that you treat them, or a branch, that you treat them as if they are disposable. It's just where they fit into your life for you to feel whole.
Yeah, it's the heart to heart closeness.
Yes. So that can look different. Your relationship with different people, everyone belongs on a different part of the
Yeah.
tree, and that's okay as long as you're still showing kindness. Um,
At the end of the day, we
yeah,
are all human
yeah,
and you can't treat people inhumanely.
correct. Yep. And on that note, foot five. Love y'all. Whee! Over and out.
Out and under?
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.